So I'm talking to you from Brisbane, where you will be here very soon on your what I understand is your first Australian tour ever.
It is, yeah. This is our first
What?
time here.
Wow. Okay. So, what impressions do you have of our giant, very, very far away former penal colony?
Um, well, I mean, the main thing I know about Australia is the spiders. You've got the huntsman spiders that move very quick and are very large. Uh, that's
That much.
the main thing. I mean, it's basically the wildlife that I'm familiar with. You've got the koalas, the dingoes. Um, yeah, Liam, the guitarist, seems to believe in drop bears. So
Tell, keep that it's real. That's been the long going. We've been running on that for like 50 years now. Don't tell him it's not real. Drop bears, they'll take your arm off. Deadly, deadly. Yeah.
and you've got the duck-billed platypus that can make its own cheese.
Yes, yes, can make its own omelet. What a creature! I remember, I think it was Jimmy Carr, or it was some British comedian, remarking that it's probably the only animal that could make its own custard. And I've never been able to get that image out of my head. Mate, am I the only idiot who, when I first saw your band name, thought you were Scandinavian?
Ah, we get that a lot. Yeah, a lot of people think we are a Scandinavian band, which I can understand. Obviously, the band name's Svalbard. It is an archipelago near Norway, so it is a very Scandi sounding band name. So we do get that a lot. Yeah,
No,
I think people are disappointed when they find out we're from England.
particularly just going off I do a lot of graphic design, so I pay a lot of attention to fonts, and I'd see this Svalbard logo and be like, oh wow, that's Scandinavian as fuck. Wait, Bristol? What?
Yeah, yeah, it is a bit of a weird one.
So, what was what kind of scene was there in Bristol where when Smallbag first came into being? How would you describe it? Sorry, bargain basement question. I know. I promise they'll get more creative as things go on.
No, it's actually not many people do ask about the sort of the scene back then when we formed. So it is an interesting one. I think the problem with Bristol is obviously Bristol in England has a reputation for trip hop. It's the birthplace of bands like Massive Attack and Portishead. And because of their success, that tends to dominate anything else and like any other scene in Bristol. So I wouldn't say that when we formed, the scene in Bristol was particularly healthy. It was hard to find shows to play. It was hard. Like we ended up doing it all ourselves. We'd just like get our friends down and hire a venue and put the shows on ourselves. And that was how we met other bands that we would play their hometown. We'd bring them to Bristol. We'd always lose money on the show because not a lot of people came out to shows, to like metal shows in Bristol. It's a weird one. There wasn't many DIY venues. They were all closing down. So yeah, I mean that's why I moved out of Bristol. I live near London now because I don't think it's better now. There's definitely a bit more going on for the metal scene in Bristol now, but at the time, 11 years ago when we formed Svalbard, it was hard to get momentum going. I think from Bristol.
Yeah. I'm a newcomer to your band. I'm only in the last few days, funnily enough, when I got the interview offer, and I was like, hang on, I know that name. I've seen that name around for years, and I finally checked you out and was absolutely floored. I'm For a bit of context, I've been hospitalized several times for mental health, so some of your lyrics really knocked me around. It was quite confronting in a positive way, not in a negative way at all. But yeah, you're very direct in depicting your mental health struggles in your music. What have been some of the positives of that?
I think exactly what you just said about being able to strike that resonance with other people who have experienced similar struggles with their mental health. Being able to sort of feel like I can be there for them in those dark moments via music. That's the chief thing that I want Svalbard to be able to do with our music, is to make people feel less alone, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like when you're there. And one of the biggest things is how isolating it is, how much it tears you away from everything else in the world. And how, yeah, it can be very difficult to feel like there's no one else that understands what you're going through. So I wanted to write these really clear lyrics that didn't hide what it's like to go through a really dark patch of depression, so that, because I know for me personally, when I'm in that way, I listen to a lot of bands that have the bleak lyrics, and it's comforting to feel like someone else understands. So yeah, that's the kind of positive I take from it. I always view it as kind of, it's like taking all the sort of yeah, the struggles with mental health that I have, and taking them outside, turning them into something creative, which then plants a seed that can kind of grow into something that helps others.
Yeah, I like that. And for discussion's sake, what would you say there have been any negatives, perhaps, to being so forthright with your mental health?
Yes, yeah, definitely. Uh, there have been negatives. I feel like anyone who picks up a Svalbard record or checks us out and listens to us and read the lyrics is reading my diary. So it's like it feels very vulnerable to be that exposed. You know, I've had sort of people who weren't into metal from like the school I went to, then going, "Ooh, she's in a band," and checking it out and reading the lyrics, and then like it's not, and then being really judgmental about it, and kind of, yeah, I think for the people that don't understand and the people that don't relate, it becomes another sort of like way for people to make fun of you, really. But also, yeah, there is a fragility to being that open and honest about mental health, because even though the discussions around mental health have improved dramatically in the last 10, 20 years, it's still not in a place where it's as open as and accepting as I'd like it to be.
What do you do for self-care?
Oh, I've not been the best at it recently. I tend to say yes to way too many things and then end up overworking all the time. My main form of self care is the gym and running. So that's my main form of release. I always feel much calmer after I've had a good session at the gym or gone for a 5K run. And I find like, yeah, it's a real boost in self-esteem as well. It manually releases endorphins. If you do
Mm.
cardio for 40 minutes, your body has to release some endorphins. It's got no choice. So exercise is probably my main one for that. Also, I find finding ways, so say if we're on tour, finding ways to stay busy when you're on long journeys traveling that don't involve being on your phone, because your phone can make you feel a lot worse, especially social media. So things like, this is quite boring, sorry, but I make like cross stitch fan art of Pokemon and stuff. So I just sit there and make like so little Pokemon characters and things like that, because
Yeah.
it's a way to like pass the time, but a way that doesn't feel like it brings you down as much. But yeah, at the moment, I'm sort of, to be completely honest with you, very overworked, very stressed. I have a full time job as well. So yeah, it's just been this mad, stressful balancing act.
Yeah, and that you don't need to feel bad about that. That's not boring at all. I imagine cross stitch would be quite kind of hypnotically centering, you know. Uh,
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm all about that. That sounds awesome. Now, your Brisbane show will be featuring one of my favorite local bands. What do you know, if anything, about the band Blind Girls?
I haven't checked them out, so I don't know anything about them.
Wow. Strap yourself in. They are
Ooh.
absolutely phenomenal. Well, the first time I saw them was opening for a Scottish metal band called Frontiera. And
Oh,
yeah, and Frontiera are, full on. Blind Girls came on stage, and I thought they were going to be a shoegaze band or something. The bass player literally looks like Michael Cera from Scott Pilgrim versus the World. The guitarist had a flower in his guitar. I'm like, there was a girl singing. I'm like, all right, this should be all right, whatever. 1, 2, 3, 4, bro, like just like Converge, the band Converge, like
yeah.
just absolutely just ear splitting, blow your hair back. You know that those footage of people in like crash testing, when they're in wind tunnels with their that is what it is like at front row of their concerts. So yes, do yourself a favor and watch from side stage and bring earplugs,
Wow,
for God's sake.
that sounds great. I can't wait to see it.
There's with your lyrics, there's a power in it. There's a very much a directness to it. The intent with your lyrics, that it isn't abstracted at all. Did this Was this something that kind of happened organically? Like, did you start going, I want to write really directly, or did it just kind of happen?
It was a really deliberate choice. So I work as a journalist in my day job, and before I started working in games journalism, I was a music journalist, and I would interview a lot of metal bands, and they always kind of were, you'd have to ask what the lyrics actually meant. You'd be like, oh, there's so much disguised in like poetry, and they go, oh, actually this song is about mental health or dealing with depression, and you kind of read the lyrics and you go, oh, I had no idea, because it's not very obvious. It's very poetic, it's very symbolic, and I love that about metal in a lot of ways. And if that's how a band wants to do their lyrics, that's great. I'm not against it, but it just made me think, what if it was less poetic? Like it made me sort of go, what if no one had to ask what the meaning of my lyrics is, because they
Mm.
can read them and they can understand it? And I think that kind of plain language that's very direct, yeah, it has that ability to strike a chord with others. It has that ability to create resonance with people who are experiencing the same thing. So it's all about making it as understandable and as clear as possible, and no room for interpretation, if you know what I mean.
So you said you were a music journo back in the day. Who were some of your favorite interviews that you've done?
Oh, I really enjoyed Twilight Force from Sweden, the power metal band. We had a
Mhm.
really fun conversation about like writing music and stuff. Oozing Wound, they were a great band to interview. Yeah, Danny Filth is hilarious. Um,
Yes,
so I mostly wrote. There was a magazine in the UK called Terrorizer, which was like an extreme metal magazine. I wrote for them, written for Metal Hammer, Kerrang, all the sort of the UK staples. Really, it was a good time. But I have since moved to video games now.
yeah, fair. I had a subscription to Metal Hammer for years back when I think his name was Alex Millas was the editor. Alexander Millas. I don't know. This is probably dating me horribly. This would have been late 2000s. But they were some of the writing in that really had a profound effect on how I write as a music journalist. So yeah, I do this kind of stuff because of the stuff I read back then. It feels did I are they even still around? Like
Yeah.
Metalhead? Yeah,
Hmm.
I know
So
they were
still,
for sale at one point. So I was like, oh, I'm guessing
yeah,
someone.
they got bought by Future Publishing. So yeah, they're all good.
Ah, good, good, good. So yeah, I'm really upset because I missed an offer from Danny Filth just the other day, and I'm kicking myself. I hope I might be able to get another go. But, no. So what is a in the subject of self-care? What's a nice thing you're going to be able to do for yourself after this interview, after today, something today?
Oh,
Yeah.
well, after this video, I go straight to work,
Ah,
and then I have a very long because I've got to like do loads of work ahead of before we go for tour. So it's going to be a long day, and then I have more interview. Well, I've got another interview in 7 minutes, and then work all day, and then more interviews all night, and then try and find somewhere to pack. So, to be completely honest, today I'll be lucky if I get to the gym. I'm
yeah,
hoping to get to the gym. Um, yeah, it's one of those days. I'm sort of looking at it like it's my Mondays are always. It sounds so boring. My Mondays are always super hectic.
yeah.
So we'll see. Hopefully, I can go for a run.
Fair. Well, look, I'll let you go now so you can have a few minutes to yourself before the next one. How are you feeling with this being video? Would you
Yeah,
like
it's fine.
audio? Yeah? Okay, excellent. Hey, it was lovely to meet you, and I hope you very much enjoy the tour. And yeah, well done with everything. It was nice to meet you, Serena.
Thank you. Nice to meet you too. Have a good day.
You too, mate.
Bye.